Why do we love being scared? Why do millions of people willingly expose themselves to things that terrify them? Dark rooms, monstrous faces, and the promise of death and suffering even knowing it's not real. Horror, in all its forms, is far more than cheap thrills or sudden jump scares. It is a mirror reflecting our deepest fears, anxieties about life, death, and the unknown, and even questions about who we are when confronted with the unimaginable. At its core, horror confronts the human condition. Philosophers like Sartre and Camus spoke about the absurdity and unpredictability of life, the way existence itself can feel alien, threatening, and often meaningless. Horror dramatizes this reality. When we watch a haunted house, a relentless killer, or a creeping supernatural presence, we are not merely being entertained, we are engaging with the ultimate questions of vulnerability, morality, and mortality. Fear in horror is not just existential, it is deeply psychological. Our brains are wired to respond to danger, and horror films exploit that wiring in ways both fascinating and primal. The adrenaline rush, the racing heartbeat, the tension tightening in our chest, these are real physiological reactions, even when we intellectually understand the threat isn't real. Sigmund Freud's concept of the uncanny explains part of this response. Things that are almost familiar but slightly off, dolls with lifeless eyes, mirrors reflecting something that shouldn't be there. Human movements that feel just a fraction wrong trigger a deep, unsettling response in the mind. Horror makes the ordinary strange and the safe dangerous, forcing us to confront the limits of perception, reason, and our own imagination. Horror is also an extraordinary lens for examining society and cultural anxieties. Monsters, ghosts, and apocalyptic scenarios often represent the fears that a society collectively experiences. Zombies are not just the undead, they are a commentary on conformity, consumerism, and survival instincts under stress. Haunted houses often reflect generational trauma, oppressive family dynamics, or the lingering weight of historical atrocities. Films like Get Out use horror to expose systemic racism, while The Purge critiques inequality and the fragility of social order. Even supernatural horror can hold allegorical truths. Witches, demons, and spirits frequently embody moral fears, cultural taboos, or unresolved guilt. Through horror, we confront what society often refuses to face openly, using fear as a tool for reflection, critique, and understanding. Moreover, horror functions as a kind of emotional rehearsal. By confronting fear in a safe and controlled environment, we process emotions and anxieties that might otherwise overwhelm us. Horror films allow us to mentally explore survival scenarios, confront symbolic representations of death, loss, and isolation, and emerge with a strange sense of mastery or insight. They force us to face not only external threats, but the internal ones, our own insecurities, regrets, and suppressed emotions. Horror teaches us that fear is not only a danger to be avoided, but also a lens through which we can understand ourselves more deeply. In a sense, horror is not just escapism, it is an exploration of the self, a philosophical inquiry disguised as entertainment. The medium of horror itself, its music, its pacing, its imagery, is a philosophical tool. Darkness, silence, shadows, distorted sound, and ambiguous storytelling are not just stylistic choices. They are ways to communicate ideas about uncertainty, mortality, and human vulnerability. Even the most subtle horror, like a slowly creaking floorboard or a fleeting shadow, forces the viewer to imagine, to participate mentally, and to confront their own anxieties. Horror teaches us to exist with questions that may have no answers, to tolerate ambiguity, and to recognize the fragility of our own perceptions. Even when the threat vanishes with the end credits, the unease lingers, a subtle reminder that life itself can be strange, unpredictable, and often frightening. Horror also explores the tension between control and chaos. In horror media, the rules of normal life are suspended. Natural laws, social norms, and moral boundaries often break down, leaving characters and the audience vulnerable. This breakdown allows us to explore what it means to live without certainty, to make choices under duress, and to confront moral dilemmas in extreme situations. Horror encourages introspection. How would we act in the face of ultimate danger? Would fear corrupt us, or would it reveal our truest selves? In this way, horror is not only a mirror of external fears, but a reflection of internal truths. Ultimately, horror in media is philosophy in motion. It forces us to confront mortality, human nature, and the unknown. It challenges our minds to differentiate between reality and illusion, fear and safety, morality and chaos. When we watch a monster, a ghost, or a relentless force of evil, we are not simply seeking thrills, we are examining ourselves, the fragile and complex beings who dwell in a world full of uncertainty. Perhaps we are drawn to horror not because we enjoy being scared, but because in fear we see a reflection of life itself, unpredictable, uncontrollable, and profoundly human. Horror, in this sense, is more than entertainment. It is a meditation on existence, a confrontation with the unknown, and an invitation to understand ourselves more deeply. It asks us to face what we often avoid, the fragility of life, the darkness within our minds, and the infinite questions that have no easy answers. And perhaps, in embracing fear through horror, we learn not only to survive it, but to recognize the courage and curiosity that define the human spirit.